New York Giant was a guy named Phil McConkey. Phil McConkey. Phil McConkey played wide receiver for the New York Giants. Do you know what a wide receiver is? Anyone?
He gets the ball.
Catches passes. Mostly catches passes. So he's usually wide. So if you look in football, there's a center on offense, there's two guards, there's two tackles, there's either one tight end or two tight ends, and then there's guys way out wide. Those are wide receivers. They're usually guys with really good hands, and of course a quarterback, yes. I was talking about the offensive line, but behind that you go. And you got two running backs usually back there too, right? So that's usually what a basic offense, that's a basically offense looks like in football. So wide receivers are the guys nice and wide and go out there. So Phil McConkey, right, the reason I liked him was he did something interesting. When he graduated from high school, he went to the U.S. Naval Academy. U.S. Naval Academy. And it's also called Annapolis. And the interesting thing about Annapolis is that when you go to Annapolis, you then have to go in the military and serve. So Phil McConkey went in the military for 5 years after college and served as an officer. And then at 27 years old, which in football is very, very old, 5 years of not playing football, he was in the military, and then McConkey went, and McConkey made the New York Giants. Nobody thought he could make the team. Nobody thought he could make the team. It was an unbelievable thing. So that's why Phil McConkey is always my favorite New York Giant, because he really did something that nobody else thought they could do. He went to the military academy, Naval Academy. Nobody thought he could really play in the NFL, and then he had a great career and won a Super Bowl with the New York Giants. That's what I always remember about him. Not always the guys with the most talent, or the guys who everything comes easy to them, but sometimes people in life just work really hard, and then they didn't get to their dreams, like Phil McConkey did. And that's why he's always my favorite New York Giant. But I think we are almost ready to go, so we are going to be a great audience when this guy is on, okay? We are not going to make any noise, right? We're going to be respectful, show them what Hampton Bays is all about, and let's enjoy the program, everybody.
Hi, welcome everyone. We are so excited to have all of you participating in our Q&A today. I'm Marissa, I'm the VP of School Engagement, and we are super excited to have our guests here today, and we'll do a little introduction. You know, the American Heart Association has an awesome relationship with the NFL and our Play 60, and we really are encouraging students and families to exercise for 60 minutes a day, get out there, and the weather is super nice now, so today's a good day to get out there and play with your friends and get some exercise. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tara. She is with the New York Giants, and she is Manager of Community Relations for youth football, and she is going to be introducing our special guest.
Thank you, Marissa. It's so great to be here with everyone today. As Marissa mentioned, the American Heart Association is doing some incredible work to support all of you students, all of the schools that are here today with us, and we really just want to be here today to emphasize the importance of being active every day for 60 minutes, not just for your physical health, but also for your mental health. And that's something that our players take a lot of pride in spending time with you all today. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our long snapper, Casey Kreiter, who is heading into his 10th season in the NFL. He's been with the Giants for 5 seasons now, and Casey has been a leader in the locker room ever since he stepped in the building. He's been an NFL player for about 10 seasons now, and he went to Iowa, is now here in New York, New Jersey with the Giants, and I want to make sure that he gets into things that he was doing prior to playing football, because I think it's going to resonate a lot with not only the students, but also the teachers. So Casey, if you want to, just quickly introduce yourself, let us know where you grew up and some other gigs that you had outside of being a long snapper.
Yeah, it's great to be with you guys today, and I appreciate the opportunity. Like Tara said, my name is Casey Kreiter. I'm the long snapper for the New York Giants. I've been playing professional football now for going on 10 years, and it has been quite a journey to get to this point. I grew up in a small town in Iowa if those of you guys aren't familiar, Iowa is the state known for corn. Idaho is potatoes. I'm from the land of corn in the middle of the country. I grew up in a really small farm town. There were more gas stations in my hometown than stoplights. There's about a couple thousand people, so it's a unique place to grow up. But where I grew up, went to school at the University of Iowa. I got my degree in science education, but I went to Iowa because I had the opportunity to play football, and that kind of blossomed into a chance to play in the NFL. But like a lot of people at my position and a lot of specialists and honestly a lot of players in the NFL, I didn't have success right away. I went to Dallas after college to try out for the Cowboys. I got cut 2 years in a row from the Cowboys, and while I was trying to make it into the NFL, I was a science teacher, a substitute teacher in the Iowa City School District, and then I accepted a full-time teaching job right before I worked out with the Broncos because I didn't think I was going to play football ever again. And the teaching opportunity was there. I loved being an educator. I loved coaching, and I was really excited to start that career, but tried out for the Broncos, and I actually ended up making that team. Played for the Broncos for 4 seasons, went to a Pro Bowl in 2018, and then had my first year with the New York Giants in 2020, and I've been with the New York Giants since, and it's been a lot of fun. I have 4 children of my own. I have a newborn, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a first grader who's 7. So I have a pretty crazy life. I have a very blessed life. I'm excited every single day I wake up to get to experience what I get to experience, and I'm excited to share some things with you guys today.
That's awesome. So Casey, we're talking with some elementary school, middle school students today. Can you think back to when you were their age, sitting in those seats? Any favorite memories that you have that you want to share with the group?
Yeah, I think the thing I remember most about being that age is just trying to live life to the fullest. I think when I was that age, I was very lucky and fortunate to not have a whole lot of worries in the world. I saw school as an opportunity to get to hang out with my friends. School wasn't a burden for me. I didn't think that it wasn't fun. I went and hung out with my friends, and while I was hanging out, I got to learn a lot. I like to say that I think of it this way, and I tell my first grader of my own, go hang out with your friends and try to make your brain as big as it can possibly be. Learn as much as you possibly can. Go play with your friends. And just that's what I remember growing up, just trying to make the most of every single day. If it was raining, we found something fun to do in the rain, or we found a nice book to read, or I enjoyed video games back then, and I still enjoy video games today. Dive into a video game, and when the weather was beautiful, get outside, go play with friends, go and explore nature if you can. So that's what I remember.
And we're seeing you almost 10 years in the NFL. You've been playing football that whole time, but something that we always want to encourage, especially students this age, is being active, playing as many sports as possible. It's not that you need to be so young and just focus on one sport. Can you talk about other sports that you played outside of football growing up?
Yeah, I don't remember a time where I really wasn't doing some sort of activity. In high school, I played football, I wrestled, I ran track, and I played baseball. On top of that, I was in musicals, I was in the show choir. I did all kinds of things. And then in even younger age, I remember playing soccer. And then outside of that, just hobbies. My family and I would go fishing, we would find hikes, go camping. So I think all of those experiences got me to where I am today. I know for sure the track and the wrestling, and honestly, even the theater stuff allowed me to be confident in the sport of football and got me to where I am today. I don't think I'd be able to perform in front of tens of thousands of people in a stadium or millions of people on TV if I wasn't comfortable putting makeup on and being in a musical in front of friends and family.
I think that's great. Have you been able to translate the experiences that you've had growing up to now being on the biggest stage, playing in the biggest stadiums, and just being out there every single day? I think that, like we said, being an NFL player, it's a full-time job. You guys are not only there on the field, you're in the classroom doing film and all that kind of stuff, but to get to that point, you needed to be the best version of yourself. When did you start kind of realizing, okay, nutrition is important, physical activity is important, and I need to make sure I'm staying on that kind of stuff so I can make it and achieve my goals?
I think honestly for me that happened later in my career in terms of being conscious of it, whether it was in college or a little further, but thinking back on my high school and youth experiences, like the wrestling side of it, I cut some weight when I was older in wrestling, and that's part of the wrestling culture, part of being a wrestler. So that's when I really started to learn, like, if I'm cutting weight and I have to limit what I can eat and drink to make the weight I'm going to wrestle, when I do get to eat and drink, I can't be drinking soda, I can't be eating potato chips, because my body isn't fueled that way. Carrying it over to where I am today, I think the thing that my wife and we try to do is we try to make we don't think about eating super healthy. Super healthy isn't something that we focus on. What we focus on is eating real food, right? Your fruits, your vegetables. If we're able to, we'll make our own breads. Like if we're gonna have pizza, we'll make our own dough because we know what we're putting in it. We're putting water, yeast, and flour. It's fairly simple to do. So the biggest thing for us is trying to eat full foods that come from the earth. And like I said, in the meats, we're very thankful and respectful of the animals that we choose to eat. And I think that's important too, that we're eating real meat, real food, real vegetables and fruits.
And when you started to really focus on those things, what shifts did you recognize, whether it was in your performance, how you felt on a daily basis? How did focusing on those whole foods, what you were putting into your body, what resulted in that?
Well, I think the thing that kind of spurred it for me was I'm relatively young. I'm 34 years old. That's not super old, but in the sport I play, it's pretty old for the sport I'm in. I'm in a locker room full of 20 to 26-year-old men, and I'm the old guy at 34 with 4 kids. And as I've aged, I've found that I can't go and eat a double cheeseburger and a shake at McDonald's and feel good the next day. I feel bloated. I feel heavy. I feel sluggish. Now, if I go eat a burger I make at home, or instead of a milkshake, if I want a sweet treat, maybe it's just a piece of chocolate or something, I do feel better the next day. So I think age has kind of allowed me to understand that a little bit more, because when I was in high school and middle school, I could go eat McDonald's and go play because I was probably more active than I am now, just because being a kid, you're constantly running around. But as I've gotten older, I've found that those things are not good for my overall health and performance on the field.
That's great. When we talk about, the physical side of things, the nutritional side of things, but also mentally, you mentioned, on TV, you're playing in front of millions of people, you're playing in front of tens of thousands of people in a stadium on game day. How do you get your mind focused on the tasks that you need to achieve? And one, let's talk about on game day, but two, outside of this, thinking of when you were a student, what were things that you did as well that the students today can, maybe walk away from this conversation and try it?
I think the one thing I found, whether it was high school, college, or now in the pros, the thing that helps me perform my game day is making sure that I have everything kind of else buttoned up, in line, whether that's building a routine, or if I know I have something coming up that's going to cause me stress or it's going to take time or energy, I try to take care of it as soon as I can. Because if I start pushing things off when it gets to game day, our sport is too hard, it's too competitive to be thinking about something other than the task that I have to do. So if I can have things kind of buttoned up or taken care of before we get to game day, then I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Especially now, as a father of 4, I know there's been times I've been right before I shut my phone off and we're about to go out onto the field. My wife might text me or call me and just say, hey, so-and-so's not feeling great, they got a fever, we're going to take them to the doctor. That's tough when I'm going out on the field and I know one of my kids isn't feeling good. That's something I can't control, but because everything else is in line and I don't have to worry about it, I can handle that. And we have a great support system out here. The team has great support systems to help us out if our kids or our families need anything while we're away across the country at a game or it is game day. So I think having a routine and making sure things are taken care of before it gets to game day is really important.
And you talk about a routine. Many of us listening in on this today really see the result of that routine, which is on game day, on Thursday nights, Sundays, Monday nights. Can you talk about, honestly, before I started working for the team, I just thought football players played football every day, and then on Sunday they just play a game for 60 minutes, and that's that. Now being on this side of it and seeing that you guys are getting in at 7 o'clock in the morning and some leaving at 7 o'clock at night, can you talk about the classroom side of things? How much of what you're doing is not actually playing football?
Yeah, if you put it into a percentage, I would say we probably spend, in terms of our tire time at the facility on a practice day, 10% of our time on the field practicing. The other 90% of our time is spent watching tape, being in meetings, talking with teammates about what's going to happen, or taking care of our body, whether that's recovery in the cold tubs, the hot tubs, or in the training room, if it's lifting weights with our strength coaches, if it's getting with our nutritionist during meal times to make sure we're eating right. A very small amount of our day is actually spent on the field practicing. A lot of it is preparation. For me, I try to get in there as early as I can. A lot of times that's before 6 o'clock, and I get in the weight room, get my lift in, and then I spend the next couple hours of the morning watching tape. Watching tape of myself to critique myself, but watching tape of the opponent to put together a game plan. The next couple hours of the day is spent in meetings, talking with coaches and teammates, and finding out what their game plan is and how what I plan on doing matches with what they plan on doing. And then we have that tiny, hour and a half, 2-hour practice. And then the rest of the day is recovery, eating, getting your body feeling good, a little bit more meetings, and then I typically go home. I get to be a dad until bedtime, and then usually I spend about 45 minutes to an hour at home on my own time, again, going over game plans, studying a little bit, before myself can get some free time, whether that's watching a TV show with Megan, my wife, or reading a book, or playing some video games. So again, it's a balancing all of those. You got to balance, your work needs, and then you have to definitely balance your own personal needs. Like make sure your mental health is good. Make sure I'm feeling confident. If I'm recharged, if I have stresses, I take care of those things. They all tie together to what we put out on the field.
Yeah, no, definitely sounds like a balancing act that has taken some years to be perfected, but for everyone listening, Casey sets the standard in our building. Like he said, he's one of the first to come in. I'm often seeing him talking with his teammates, talking with coaches. It's a collaborative effort, and that's something that does not come without practice, and it's something that is important for us in the building, but also just want you all to understand that what you're seeing on Sundays, on game day, whatever that is a result of an immense amount of preparation, an immense amount of attention being paid in the classroom, and ultimately doing what is best for you to understand how you can execute when the time comes. And I think that's important. Again, for me, I never realized what goes into it, so I'm glad that I'm happy to learn that. But I think another point that you're kind of touching on is just being dependable and consistent and having that routine, knowing how to show up for other people. Can you just talk about how important it is to show up, how important it is to have great attendance in school, and how that translates to having success?
Yeah, I think just being present in anything you do, we have a saying or a model that we live by kind of in our building. It's be where your feet are. So when you're in the classroom, be there, be present, make sure you're showing up to school as often as you can. There are circumstances where you can't, if you're sick or something happens, or if you're going somewhere with your loved ones or whoever takes care of you. Those things happen, but being in school and not missing days is really important. Being a former teacher myself, the way that these teachers spend in a lot of times the students don't understand this, nor do they need to understand this, but lessons build on each other. You don't learn something that you can miss, and then when you go to the next thing, you can just forget what you already learned. These teachers spend a lot of time making sure everything lines up together. So if you miss something early in the year, the things later in the year or the next week might not make as much sense because you've already missed something. So that's why it's important to be there, be attentive, learn. If you don't understand something, there's nothing wrong with that. Teachers are there for that reason. If you don't understand something, raise your hand, ask questions, get extra help. Because if you fall behind early, there's a good chance that you won't be able to probably understand or comprehend the unit or what you're learning as well as if you would have learned it probably to the best of your ability earlier in the year.
Oh, definitely, and I think that to that point of showing up, being present, there's so many things that come up in our lives that, can distract us from what the main goal is. And for you, you reach the pinnacle of success in high school to be an athlete and a great student and continue that in college and now in the NFL. But I would imagine there would have had to be some tough decisions made to, take a step away from any negative things that were happening around you or some tough situations. Is there a time that you could think of that you really had to put things in perspective that you could share with the group today and ultimately make a decision that was best for yourself but may not have been a popular decision among your friends?
Yeah, I think that reminds me of two things that I always like to share with people. And the first thing is a lot of people think that success is a straight line, right? When you succeed at something, you start at the bottom, down here, and then you get better and you come up here and it's just a straight line to success. Well, that's not true. Success is a big, huge zigzag line of being good or succeeding and then failing. And then learning from failure and exceeding and then failing again. I probably had a lot more failures in my career than I have successes. But I think that's important first to understand. And secondly, to the question, I've always been really big on setting goals. I think setting goals is really important. And I've set way more goals that I've never achieved than the ones I have achieved. But goals have always given me direction. So when I was in middle school, I knew that I wanted to be a good athlete in high school. I knew that that was something that I thought would be fun. I wanted to work at it, and that's what I wanted to do. So as I got older and I got approached with situations socially with my friends where I can remember one example. We went to a little get-together with friends. We showed up, and there were drugs and alcohol at this get-together. And for me, a lot of my friends wanted to hang out and be around that. For me, it was, I want to be successful in sports, potentially go to college and do this. So having that goal in mind, I was able to say, does staying at this get-together help me reach that goal? And for me, the answer was absolutely not. If I get wrapped up into this or something happens and I'm associated with it, that's not going to help me become an elite athlete at high school or get into college. So it was easy for me to leave that situation. Now, does it mean that I never hung out with those friends again and I didn't have any friends? No, absolutely not. I still enjoy those friends to this day, and we were still friends in high school, but it set the standard that I wasn't going to be associated with those things. We could still be friends, but I'm not going to do those things. And if you want to do that, that's your choice. And I think that's important. It's okay to have differences with your friends. But when it comes to setting goals and reaching your goals, you have to be super selfish. Take care of yourself first so you can achieve the things you want to achieve.
No, I think that's important. It can be applied to a lot of things. You know, there are so many decisions that are made at every single level of life, and you know, kids these days have so many different choices that they could be making in between, you know, vaping being things, drugs being things. The video games are great. Everything is great in moderation as well. And you know, 6 hours on the couch playing video games is one decision, or you know, 30 minutes with 60 minutes of play outside is another decision. And I know you know all about that balancing act. I think another thing that would be helpful for these kids to know is football is the ultimate team sport. There is nothing that the team can accomplish with just one individual having success. Can you talk about how you lift the people up beside you, knowing that you're taking care of yourself first, and what that process is like?
You mentioned it earlier. I think for me, that starts a lot with just getting to know my teammates. We just went through the first part of free agency here in the NFL, and I'm excited. We've signed a bunch of great new teammates that I look forward to getting to know. And a handful of them will work with me on the punt team or the field goal team. And for me to understand how to work the best with that person, I need to get to know them. And having conversations, getting to know what they like to do, what they don't like on the field, off the field, I can then use that information to build a relationship with that person so we can work together really well. If the person that is going to be playing next to me on our punt team, let's say, you know, they struggle with a certain look, a certain protection when we have to block on our punt team. But I know that I can recognize that really well. I can be the first one to say, hey, this team we're playing, they do that thing that you're not super comfortable with. Let's get some extra work in. And vice versa, when I snap a football to our punter, I'm looking between my legs. Well, right after I snap it, I got to block the people in front of me. The people around me are the first people to tell me what's going on or help me if I need help. So we have to trust each other. I have to trust that they're going to have my back when I can't see what's going on, and they can trust me that I'm going to be able to do my job so they don't have to do it for me, and then they can do their job successfully.
Great. I know we have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that we get to some of the questions that the schools who are on the call today had submitted in. So the first one is, what advice would you give a third grader if he or she wants to be a professional athlete one day?
As a third grader, my advice right now for you guys is to just enjoy everything you do right now. Play as many sports as you can, enjoy them. I don't know if I know any of my teammates in the 10 years I've played NFL football and the 5 years before that in college that only played football from when they were third graders until today. All my teammates played multiple sports, and they didn't do it because they wanted to go to the NFL. They did it because they enjoyed it. So, number one right now, if you're in third grade, have fun. That's the biggest thing. Have fun. Try a lot of different things. And as you get older, you'll start to figure out and you'll start finding what's successful and what you're really good at. And then you can specialize when you get older. But right now, I would say do lots of different things and enjoy it most of all.
Another question is, what does a normal practice week look like for you during the season? I know we talked about a day, but can you talk about, we just played a Sunday game, we're going to another Sunday game. Lay out what the week looks like.
Yeah, like I said, it's all about routine. So Monday, we usually review Sunday's game, and then I'll get a lift in, a good heavy lower body lift, kind of get the legs feeling a little bit better. Tuesday is our off day. I typically try not to go in and do too much unless I need extra body work to get healthy. On Tuesday, I take that day to spend with my family and get away from football for just a tiny little bit. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are pretty heavy work days. Installing game plan, practices, you get a lift in. I get 2 lifts in, usually Wednesday and Friday that week. Saturday is either a travel day or a day where we go in shortly in the morning, and then we get to spend the rest of the day with our family. And then Sunday we play another game. And that sounds very simple, but there are a lot of different moving parts. I could probably spend an hour and a half telling you what I do every single day because I have it mapped out pretty far in advance.
No, that's great. Talk about routine and preparation, and definitely takes having it mapped out ahead of time, because once you get into the season, there's so many uncontrollables that as long as you can control what you can control, that's where the success happens. Another question that we have is, how often do you exercise during the week and for how many hours? And let's talk about like physical exertion, but recovery as well.
Yeah, during the year, I would say every single day, we're doing something. I think the biggest things that pop out to me that I've learned throughout my career is I have to spend a lot of time kind of making sure my legs feel good. And the area for me that is the most that I need to focus on are my calves. I don't know why it's my calves, but my calves feel good, my body feels good. So Wednesday and Saturday we have specific techniques that our trainers put together that I've learned help me feel good throughout the week. In the off season, talking about exercise, I'm training 4 days a week, usually Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. I'm training. Those days I'm lifting all of those days, and then I'm either doing speed on Monday and Wednesday, and then conditioning Tuesdays and Fridays. So again, it's about routine. It's getting in a routine, and once you've established the routine, it's pretty easy to keep up with.
That's great. And then last question that we just had was, how many personal goals have you completed? Even if you just want to talk about some goals that you set for yourself that you accomplished, I can only imagine how many goals you've actually set and completed getting to this point, but some that you want to share with the group.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify the number of goals because I can tell you this. When I was in high school, I found a piece of old poster board and I wrote down the 4 sports I was in, and then strength and conditioning goals, and then like academic goals. And I would say 80% of the goals that I written down I got to. A lot of them were very simple. A lot of them were start on the sophomore team, be a starter on the varsity team. And some of them were very specific, like I want to squat 500 pounds. I still have not squatted 500 pounds to this day. So some of them I have reached, some of them I'm still reaching for. But it's funny to look back on those things and just see, like, absolutely, those goals that I wrote down, they shaped where I am today. And then sometimes I laugh and go, wow, I can't believe I thought I could do that when I was in middle school, because I'm an adult now and I still can't do that. But it doesn't mean I'm not trying. I'm still trying to squat 500 pounds, and I'm still trying to squat or bench 350 pounds. And I'm telling myself I will get there eventually. But that's goals, guys. That setting goals isn't definitive. They always change. The one thing I remember learning about goal setting was you should be a little bit scared of the goals you set. When you set a goal, you should look at that goal and it should make you a little nervous, because it should be hard enough that it makes you nervous you're never going to reach it and you might get disappointed, but it should be attainable enough where you look at it and go, well, if I make the right choices and work really hard, I probably could do that. So adjust your goals so you kind of fit in that little range there.
Awesome. Thanks, Casey. Appreciate it. For everyone on the call today, we appreciate you taking the time, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of the school year. Marissa, I'll pass it to you for any parting words, but really appreciate everyone hopping on today. We hope that you guys continue to be active on a daily basis.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Tara, for participating today. Thank you, all of you students, for participating in the Kids Art Challenge or American Art Challenge. We're super excited to have this opportunity. Everybody have a great day and go out and play.